let's get to some football. We were talking about it during the break. You guys did win totals today on the podcast, and we'll start with the defending champs because even though they, again, higher win total, 11.5, there's even some 12 out there. After last year, where it looked like it's a total revamp, going to be a brutal schedule at that, toughest division in the history of the NFL going into the season, and Kansas City steamrolls through everybody and wins the Super Bowl. It's just one of those things, as long as Reed and Mahomes are both there, you can't bet them under.
No, and you know, in the gambling world, you're always trying to come up with like, hey, I want to take that's different than other people. I want to get creative. I want to like find something that other people are missing. But to fade the Kansas City Chiefs, I think you're just crazy, especially at an 11.5 win total. We saw you could talk yourself into the idea of like, oh, the defense is going to play them different. This too high safety look. Mahomes doesn't know how to handle it. They lost Tyreek Hill. Their offense will be explosive. And he even had some moments where he was turning the ball over a lot, and it just doesn't matter. None of it matters. They're just too good. And I still think they're a sneaky destination for a big receiver addition. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe they do something in the draft. They don't need to, but I still wouldn't be surprised if they end up adding like a nice offensive weapon at 11.5. How do they lose 6 games? I just don't see it.
I mean, it's certainly the division does not have the reputation it did last year before the year, but even then, it's like I'm not super bullish on the Broncos. I'm not super excited about the Raiders. So you know, we're talking about a situation where there might not be a ton of resistance once again, and you know, Patrick Mahomes just figures it out. And with the 17 games now, again, 11.5, even 12, it feels like, how do you lose? Are they really going to lose more than 5 games?
Well, so here's the cross games for them. Obviously, you got the divisional cross games in the AFC. You get Jacksonville on the road. You get Cincinnati. You get the Super Bowl rematch with the Eagles, which I would be very surprised if that doesn't open the season on the Thursday night.
Be a nice one.
That would be a good one. Yeah, either that or Cincinnati on the first night. Good with me. And then their pure cross divisions are the NFC North, which is just a gorgeous draw this year.
Yes, especially for them, too.
Yeah, and it didn't matter. It wouldn't matter if Green Bay was relevant or not. It still would be great. And then the AFC East, where they draw the 2 best teams in the division at Arrowhead Stadium. I'm with you guys. I don't know how you can – there's getting cute and going under here. That's not a good idea here.
No, and the NFC North, like we were walking through the division win totals on the podcast, and – who is the best defense in that NFC North? Like they're interesting.
Probably.
Yeah, they're interesting teams from fantasy. Maybe the Lions, they're figuring something out. Justin Fields maybe makes a leap, maybe he doesn't. But the defenses between all 4 of them, I don't know, man. Like I like the Chiefs offense against all those defenses right there. And you know, the Jags on the road, maybe if it's in September, that's always a tough place to play, but yeah, I don't know, man. Again, like find 6 losses. I think the Raiders take a step back in their division. I'm still not high on the Broncos. The Chargers, they split. I just don't see them falling off.
Don't see it either. I really don't. And I think either Detroit or Chicago, one of those games will likely be the game they play in Germany because the Chiefs are surprisingly willing to give up a home game.
It doesn't matter. That's
no, it really doesn't.
I mean,
it really doesn't.
Andy Reid's love of sausage. He just had to.
Yes, that too. Yes.
We're going to Germany. Sign us up. We're in.
No, I'm not giving up a home game. They actually have great bratwurst in Germany. He's like, oh yeah,
we're all in.
Also, a very long flight for him to draw on all of his team members.
Yes, that too.
The State Farm commercials. I miss those.
Hey, look, it's a good commercial. That's for sure. So you mentioned it. You're not, Kramer. You're not high on the Broncos, who. Last year, look, I wasn't buying hey, they're a shoo-in playoff team. I wasn't buying that. Now, I don't think anyone could have dreamt the debacle that happened to them this year.
No. I thought there was like a floor with Russell Wilson.
That you were at least going 8-9.
Yeah, because of the consistency. Like
we'd only ever seen him play with a competent coach, maybe even a very excellent coach. It turns out Hackett had no idea what he was doing.
I think it was like I was one of those guys who was like, oh, he was dealing with that hand injury, blah blah blah. Seattle with that run he had, they hammered their win total over every year. So I thought there would be some level of consistency there. But between Hackett and between him falling off and whatever sort of locker room stuff went on, like it was a free fall. I did not see that coming.
Well, and now Peyton, I mean, it's coming out. Russ has some of his own people in the building, and Peyton's like, that's not going to fly. So I don't know how quickly you course correct here when the biggest problem seems to be maybe still the quarterback.
Well, the interesting thing with them is, look, I'm not expecting them to vault from 5 to 10. Like that's unrealistic. The AFC is just so stacked that it's going to be hard for anyone, even if the Jets eventually get this Rodgers deal done that seems to be sitting in the abyss for as long as humanly possible.
It's in the darkness.
Yeah, hey, look, it's gonna be hard to even get to 10 for all these teams that are trying to vault up. But Denver is the one that I'm really fascinated to see, like, what are they early? Because I think Sean Payton is a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. I know he only won one Super Bowl, but look what Drew Brees was in San Diego to what he was in New Orleans. He was a solid quarterback in San Diego. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback through his career with Payton coaching him in New Orleans. So I'm curious to see how that works.
I think they could be an interesting team against the spread in the second half of the season, or maybe an adjusted win total, or maybe even like as the season goes along. Like I don't know how committed they are to Russell Wilson for the entire season. I think you bring in Sean Payton because you have a big problem. The big problem is Russell Wilson, and I think if it doesn't go well early, I think Broncos management, they didn't bring in Russell Wilson. The Walmart kids didn't sign Russell Wilson. They're ready to throw him in the discount bin.
You ready for the Jarrett Stidham era in Denver? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't be shocked. There's already rumors that like Peyton likes Stidham. Now maybe he's floating that.
Oh boy.
Maybe he's floating that to get Russell Wilson to fall in line. I'm just saying I don't think this is as simple as like, oh, bring in Sean Payton, everything's totally fixed.
The smoke is when Taysom Hill gets dealt from the Saints to the
then
Broncos.
You're really worried.
Then we're worried. Russ is in trouble. I just think the Sean Payton thing's a multi-year commitment. Like Sean's
of course.
saying.
Of course.
And so, boy.
They're way more in on Sean Payton than they are Russell Wilson.
They should be, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it works, but especially early and for the win total,
well, they won 5 last year. It's 8.5. That's a healthy step, as you were pointing out.
It's a huge way to go.
Yeah.
And look, again, there's going to be one team that was bad in the AFC that vaults. That, like, it always happens. One team vaults up. I don't think it's going to be them.
No.
It just too tough of a division. More likely than not comes from the AFC South. You know, we're going to keep the football discussion going. It's always fun. I don't care that it's April 6th. It's always fun to talk some football here on the GPE. I piqued your interest during the break, Kramer, didn't I?
Oh, we're talking football.
Yeah, hey,
I'm always interested.
So let's go to this because this is an interesting discussion. I want to bring it on air. And it's in the AFC East, where the Buffalo Bills are the current betting favorites at DraftKings at plus 135. The New York Jets, who currently hold the longest playoff drought in North American sports, trust me, I know well about that, still have not acquired Aaron Rodgers yet, even though, again, it's coming. It's just a matter of when that happens, more likely than not. Plus 240. And then the Miami Dolphins here are sitting at 3-1 to win the division at DraftKings. I'm not even going to bother mentioning New England because I feel like they're going to finish in last, even if Zach Wilson has to play quarterback for 17 games for the Jets. So, Kramer, I'm going to start with you here because I think the Miami Dolphins at 3-1 is a wildly good bet to be made because even with Rodgers more than likely going to the Jets, there's not much higher that number can get with Miami. And to me, they are at worst Team 1B to Buffalo in the way of talent at this point.
It's the quarterback on the rookie deal. They've pushed all the chips to the middle. And, you know, when you say 3-1, that's an implied probability of what, 25%? And that just seems wrong. It seems wrong to be behind the Jets with their current situation. And even if Aaron Rodgers shows up, we just spent a whole segment talking about how the Broncos and Nathaniel Hackett were a problem. Nathaniel Hackett is on the Jets coaching staff.
Hey, look, he may be the main reason Aaron Rodgers comes. Denver already tried it once.
He's the juicy worm. I don't get that at all. And at the end of the day, we saw how this Miami team, they did what they did last year in spite of not having Tua for a full season. playing some sub-caliber backup quarterbacks. And I mean, at this point, I would bet a lot of money that that price will be on week 1 opening kickoff. The Dolphins will not be a 3-1 dog to win the division.
I'm with you, and Sean, Kramer just brought it up. I mean, if you get a full season out of Tua, even the biggest of Tua haters at this point.
Well, are you talking about me? Because I've been one of the bigger. I went on a roller coaster ride.
I perfectly directed.
Yes,
this
okay.
here,
because I went on a roller coaster ride with Tua, where it's like Tua is the worst quarterback of all time, and it's like I'm nailing it. And then this year they get Tyreek Hill, and it's like, I mean, I was on Baltimore when they were destroying him, and then Tua goes off. He's just chucking up bombs. I said he couldn't throw the deep ball. He's rubbing that in my face, and then I go, all right, fine. I was wrong. Tua's a good quarterback. And then he completely collapses there at the end. And it's tough because as much as I want to hate on him too, a lot of it really just was him not staying healthy. And you said 17 healthy games of Tua. I don't know if we can get there with Tua.
No, that's a good point.
Because again, it's not only the concussions, it's been other stuff. And really, that's where Miami got exposed. I mean, Skylar Thompson gave him a good game up in Buffalo. Kramer and I were both on the Dolphins there, +10. That was crazy that the spread was that big. But I don't know, Bridgewater, I don't think he's coming back, or if he does.
It's Mike White now.
Yes, you're right. Mike White. So
they upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike White on that roster, he had a little. What? Also, you're a Jets guy. How can you let Mike White walk in division? I get he sucks, but the team loved him.
So here's the deal, Sean. And my dad and I have had this conversation already. The Jets are going to play the Dolphins when Tua is hurt and Mike White is starting.
You just see it coming.
And you know what's going to happen.
He's going to have his one good game of the year.
Mike White is going to be the only guy who knows how to complete passes at Sauce Gardner.
Yes.
That is going to be what happens.
That's also true.
Like, he's going to throw for 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, no turnovers, and the Dolphins are going to win by 2 touchdowns. Like, that is the lock of all locks.
You could just see it coming as a Jets fan because it's just setting it up. And you're right. I kind of had forgotten the Mike White thing. So I do like Miami over 8.5. I don't know if I can quite get there on the division yet. I don't hate it at 3-1 odds wise. It's pretty good. I still think Buffalo, as much as you can critique Josh Allen, the Buffalo offense, the Buffalo team in general, they are still a tough team to beat in the regular season in Buffalo. They just are. So I don't think they're going to lose. I don't see them losing more than 2 home games, maybe 3 road games. I just think they're not the Chiefs, but they're not super far behind when it comes to regular season. I think, to me, they remind me of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers these past few years, where it's like a reliable team in the regular season. I don't trust them when they get to the playoffs, but they're still pretty reliable regular season.
And guys, Tua is taking judo, so he's learning how to fall. It will matter. And I do think the Mike White thing's big because we saw Skyler, not a name, nor is he a backup quarterback. And Teddy, we love the Butler. It might be time to hang it up.
Yeah, it's time for Teddy to hang the two gloves up.
Second year in the scheme. This is going to be a narrative this year. There's some offensive schemes that showed up and performed right away, and I think you're only going to see development year 1 to
Ryan's just hoping you transition to the Giants here.
You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to the NFC East here.
He's setting it up.
Because look, we're all fans of teams on the I-95 corridor.
There you go.
We got to get this done here. All right, Eagles are +115 to win the division again, which I'm going to be honest with you. That price feels pretty good. I know the team's going to look a little bit different, Sean, but we really expecting the Cowboys to really pop up and win that division.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that scares you, of course, is the trend. The last time someone won back-to-back division titles was the Eagles. You have to go all the way back to 2003, 2004. But I would say this Eagles team kind of reminds me of that 2003, 2004, where they lost in the Super Bowl, but they're still bringing back a lot of the team. Still a very dominant team in a lot of ways. Like, they have their core offensive linemen. They still have a bunch of good studs on the defensive linemen. They have a top 10 pick. And if I know Howie Roseman, the Philadelphia Eagles, I think they're going to either be bringing in a cornerback or a defensive lineman. You're drafting someone that high, usually someone that can impact you that year. again, Jalen Hurts, he lost one game as a starter in the regular season, unfortunately one game in the playoffs, and that game was a 3-point loss to Kansas City. He played his ass off.
Wasn't his fault.
I mean, he did have that one turnover. The defense couldn't, give him much help. It's just, you have a very good quarterback. You have Nick Sirianni, who, again, back-to-back playoff appearances, even making the playoffs in his first year with that roster, I think was pretty impressive. And again, it's hard to see a massive drop-off. Yeah, they lost, Javon Hargrave. Yeah, they lost their coordinators. I mean, Shane Steichen was calling plays. I think you can point that out. But still, I mean, they were 13-4 with Gardner Minshew starting a couple games there.
Yeah.
Almost makes you wonder why the price isn't minus 200. Maybe minus 150.
Well, you know what the thing is, like, so just as a vision. First off, the Commanders' plan here, where I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he probably is a starter in the league. But Sean, you and I talked about this last week. Like that is the most logical fit for Lamar Jackson, basically. Them and Atlanta are the two most logical fits, and they're completely out on it.
A guy who works for us is a Commanders fan. I was like, he said, no, I don't want it. That's too much money. I was like, dude, do you realize you might be good?
Yeah.
You might,
talent.
If you give Lamar Jackson, Terry McLaurin, Eric Bieniemy as your OC, you might be good. Well, it's worth the risk. Like, what are you holding on to? Sam Howell had a couple games.
Had one game when Dallas decided to completely no-show.
I mean, as an Eagles fan, I'm all for it. God bless them for not taking Lamar Jackson, but spend the money, roll the dice. You've had so many bad investments in DC. Try investing in Lamar Jackson.
And maybe it's just waiting for the ownership change. I don't know. But as a fan of the team in the division, I wouldn't want to see Lamar, I guess, come to the division. Although Wink Martindale 1-0 versus Lamar.
Hey, well, look, that was in the middle of the greatest luck box run in the history of the NFL, basically.
Hey, a win's a win.
Hey, I loved it. I was on the Giants that day. I loved that more almost as much as you did that day.
I mean, again, you look at the division, and rather than talk about why the Giants and Brian Daboll are going to take a step, there's also the element of the Cowboys, right? They got rid of the smart offensive coordinator to have Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, it was only on the market for half a day. That always shows it was a good move.
The owner is nearing the end, and he's starting to make desperation moves. His toy, Zeke, is gone. Dak's best friend also. You have an offense. It looks like they're going to spend more investment in the wide receiver room. Yeah. It doesn't seem like that's been helping. And if the defense does any sort of regressing backwards, to your earlier point, it does seem like the Eagles could have a pretty easy walk to the division.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's plus money on Philly.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.